A woman lies alone, in a bed where no one else rests, within a silent space, devoid of voices, devoid of touches, devoid of a body beside hers. Some perceive this as a misfortune. Some interpret it as solitude, defeat, emptiness. But what if that nameless bed has become a sanctuary? What if that still place is sacred terrain, where the divine speaks more distinctly? What if lying alone is not lack, but divine appointment? Today I want to speak to you, woman who lies alone, who may have wept at midnight for not feeling the embrace of human arms, who may have sensed that your room feels vast, frigid, unoccupied, who has questioned, could there be something wrong with me? No, that is not the truth. This message is addressed to you, because that bare bed is not deserted, because that void is not rejection but a beckoning, because in feminine isolation lies a secret the world cannot grasp, but that the heavens revere. Have you pondered why certain women in the scriptures journeyed alone? Why the Lord chooses to conceal some while others are seen? Why some women are reserved, without spouses, without offspring, without apparent titles, and yet carry a fire that burns deep? Because there is a veiled intention, a hidden refinement, a closeness that can only grow in a hush. Because there are nights when no mortal being can sustain you, yet a presence remains ever watchful. Mario Alonso Puig spoke about the neural field, that sacred web connecting the unseen with the seen. And when a woman lies alone, without distractions, without clamors, without shallow comforts, that field is awakened, because the feminine spirit, in undisturbed solitude, accesses realms where eternal callings are uncovered. Because the pure soul, when solitary, transforms into a blazing torch. And because at night, while the world rests, there is a spiritual struggle reserved for a chosen few. Women of prayer, women of conviction, women hidden by design. It is not fragility to lie alone. It is a vocation. It is not deprivation. It is equipping. It is not neglect. It is devotion. Because in that space where no one holds you, there's a divine being who envelopes you, a loyal partner, a shield unseen, a lover without falsehood, a timeless sustainer. And that chamber is not ordinary. It is a shrine. It is a war zone. It is a room of majesty. This video is not for all. It is for those prepared to discern the dialect of the heavens, for those who do not pursue companionship out of anguish, but chase calling through surrender, for those who crave more than affection. They desire holy nearness. For those who trust that God is not delayed, he is crafting, and that in the interim, his loyalty is their defense, their holiness their scent, and their patience a seed of splendor. Today we will reflect on you, on that woman by herself who is not abandoned, on that vacant bed that is sacred, on that silence that binds covenant. Today we'll open our vision to a truth, that lying alone is not deficiency, it is destiny. Solitude is not a voided room. It is a fruitful soil, a terrain where no opinions clamor, where no earthly meddling dwells, where everything gains clarity. It is there that the divine sows seeds that could never sprout amid the world's commotion, because there are insights that only arise in stillness. There are revelations that only appear in quietude, and there are vocations that only emerge when all else has been stripped away. There are women who have been led to solitude not by mistake, but by design, because the Creator does not improvise. He sets apart, he hides, he isolates, not to punish, but to transform. In solitude, God works without interruptions. He shapes character, heals old wounds, burns the impurities of emotion. The woman who submits to the fire of solitude does not come out the same. She comes out with a new look, a new voice, a new authority, because she was polished in a place where no one saw her, but where God contemplated her all the time. When the soul no longer has anyone to talk to, it learns to speak with heaven. When there is no one to embrace her, she learns to be embraced from above. And when there is no human name calling her, she begins to recognize God's voice calling her by name. That is what turns solitude into spiritual ground, the change of focus. It's no longer about what is missing outside, but about what is growing inside. There's a very common lie. that being alone means being incomplete. But spiritual truth says the opposite. Being alone can be the perfect setting to become whole, because the wrong company fragments, but solitude well-lived unifies. You are not alone as punishment. You are alone by calling, because you are being set apart, not abandoned. You are being formed, not ignored. The caterpillar is also isolated in its cocoon, but what emerges afterward flies. When God wants to deal with you on a deep level, He first clears the land, and that sometimes means removing relationships, silencing voices, closing doors. Solitude is not an absence. It is a divine strategy. It is a way God says, I want your attention without distractions. And when He has your attention, He can give you direction. He can show you not only who you are, but who He is for you. The feminine soul is like a garden. It needs space, light, and spiritual water to flourish. But many gardens never bear fruit because they are full of emotional weeds, of unnecessary interferences. Solitude pulls out those weeds. Solitude cleanses. And once the garden is clean, the Holy Spirit can plant eternal. He can water it with His presence. He can make it bloom with purpose. In that empty room, there are not just walls. There are echoes of heaven. There are silences that speak louder than 1,000 words. There are long nights that are actually sacred encounters. Because when a woman dares to see her solitude as an altar, everything changes. She is no longer a victim of abandonment. She is a priestess of silence. She no longer begs for human company. She cries out for glory. She no longer waits for someone. She waits for the one. And that spiritual ground, that solitude lived with surrender, becomes a field of heavenly training. There you learn to listen, to discern, to resist. There your faith matures. Your identity is affirmed, and your dependency shifts from men to God, because there are dimensions of divine love that are only understood when you have no one but Him. And when He is all you have, you discover that He is all you need. When all the lights of the world go out and everyone's voice is silent, there remains a single presence that does not leave, a single voice that does not quiet, a single love that does not fail. That is God, the faithful husband, the only one capable of filling the soul to overflow without the need of skin or human promises or rings. The world sells an incomplete idea of love. It believes that a woman is loved only when someone chooses her. But heaven has a different logic. God does not wait for you to be perfect to love you. He does not walk away if you cry too much. He is not bothered by your doubts. He does not flee when you are afraid. He stays. And more than that, He covers. He embraces without touching. He speaks without words. He comforts from within. Because God is not a beautiful idea. He is real, alive, present, and He is with you in every night where no one else arrives. In the book of Hosea, God reveals Himself as a husband who pursues his unfaithful wife, not to punish her, but to love her better. It says, I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. The wilderness is a symbol of solitude, but also of encounter, because when everything has been stripped away, He reveals Himself as enough. When there are no human names left to call, the name of God resounds louder. God is not a plan B while the real husband arrives. He is the eternal husband. And if there happens to be a human husband, he will only be a pale reflection of the love He has already given you. That's why you do not wait for a man like an emotional beggar. You wait with dignity, with your head held high, because you are already loved. You are already chosen. You already have a covenant. This love does not depend on what you do. It doesn't fade if you stumble. It doesn't get angry if you feel weak, because it is perfect love, patient love, love that disciplines but does not abandon, that corrects but does not wound, that waits for your yes without pressure, that never leaves. And in that intimate relationship with Him, you learn to trust, to let go of anxiety, to enjoy the process, to understand that if He keeps you waiting, it is not out of forgetfulness, but purpose. He is preparing you for great things. And he does it first in secret, like a goldsmith. He polishes you in silence, without witnesses. And in that silence, he makes you fall in love. Because the soul falls in love with the one who cares for it in the darkness, not with the one who only applauds its light. God is the only one who can fill every corner of your heart without hurting you. The only one who can embrace your spirit and leave you stronger than before. The only one who knows every wound and still does not turn away. He sees you as you are and still says, "You are mine." That faithfulness is more real than any human promise. And when you embrace it, you no longer feel like you are waiting for someone. You discover you are already with someone. The Bible is full of women who walked alone, but not empty. Women without a husband, without children, without applause. Women who were not popular, but were powerful. They lived what many live today. Misunderstanding, waiting, silence. But they also experienced what many have yet to discover. The faithfulness of a God who never abandons the one he loves. Let us consider Hannah, the mother of Samuel. For years she was barren. Her husband had another woman. Her heart wept in secret, while others mocked her waiting. But in the midst of that deep loneliness, Hannah did not become bitter. She became fervent. She cried out in silence. And in that secret place, God gave her not just a son, but a prophet who would change the history of Israel. Because a prayer that is born from solitude holds a power that noise will never know. Then there is Ruth, a widow, a foreigner, with no apparent promise. She could have stayed in Moab, resigned to a life of mourning. But she chose to follow Naomi, chose to follow the God of Israel. In that decision, in that total surrender, God rewarded her with a new story. She married Boaz, had descendants, and became part of the lineage of Jesus. Ruth teaches us that faithfulness in the midst of loss opens doors only God can open. And what can we say about Mary, the mother of Jesus, a young virgin, pregnant by the work of the Holy Spirit, judged by her surroundings, misunderstood even by her fiancé. She was alone many times, even though surrounded by people. But her yes to heaven changed the course of humanity. Mary lived the tension of being chosen without being understood, of having a promise inside her without being able to explain it, of living out God's will, even if it meant bearing stares, suspicions, and silences. These women did not live solitude as punishment, but as a divine platform. In their isolation, God built something eternal. In their waiting, he sowed destiny. In their silence, he spoke louder. And their lives still inspire millions today. When you read the Bible, don't just look for miracles or great names. Look for the silences. Look for those who waited, those who prayed, those who were not celebrated by the world, but were honored by heaven. Because many times, what the world calls loneliness, God calls holiness. What others see as neglect, God uses as a womb of purpose. So if today you feel like one of them in a foreign land, in a process without a clear end, in pain without company, remember that you are in good company. You are not alone. You are walking a path that others have walked before you. And the God who is faithful to them will be faithful to you. The empty room is not just a place where you sleep. It is the space where your soul meets the invisible. It is the room where the doors of the world are closed and the doors of heaven are opened. There, where no one sees you, where no one hears you, where many times it's just you with your thoughts. That is the exact place where God is waiting for you. That bed without human company. That silence that seems like an echo. That twilight that falls at night. Everything can be transformed into an altar. An altar doesn't need gold or incense or sacred stones. It only needs inner fire and surrender. And that is exactly what happens in your room when you decide to turn your solitude into worship. Because the bed where you cried can become a throne of glory. The floor where you knelt can be more powerful than any pulpit. And the air you breathe in that solitude can be charged with the very presence of God. Your room, so ordinary, so everyday, can be a place of heavenly encounters, where you open the Bible and the words leap with life, where you close your eyes and feel that you are not alone, where you pray not to ask, but to know. Because when you understand that this space is an altar, your perspective changes. You no longer wait for time to pass. You wait for glory to descend. Women throughout history have had altars in unthinkable places. Some in prisons, others in huts, others in hospital beds. You have it in your room. Every night can be a service. Every dawn can be a divine appointment. Every tear can be incense. Because God does not dwell in temples made by human hands. He dwells in surrendered hearts. And if yours is surrendered, then that space is already sacred. Do not underestimate what happens when you are alone. That room where you feel nothing is happening is witness to invisible transformations. There God speaks to you in the depths. He corrects you with love. He reminds you who you are. He reveals plans. And above all, He shapes you. The empty room becomes a workshop of destiny, a laboratory of faith, a spiritual delivery room. When Jacob dreamed of the ladder to heaven, he was on the ground, alone, without a pillow, with a stone for support. But there he had a vision that marked generations. And when he woke up, he said, "This place is the house of God and the gate of heaven." No one would have said it by looking from the outside, but heaven had opened right there. It's the same with you. Maybe from the outside your room says nothing, but heaven sees it differently, because it knows that there is genuine worship, sincere weeping, real seeking. And it doesn't matter if it's messy sometimes, if the bed is unmade, if you have no candles, incense, or background music. God is not looking for aesthetic perfection. He seeks a surrendered heart. What you do in that room, when no one applauds you, when no one posts it online, when no one replies to you, that is what carries the most weight in eternity. Because the real altar does not need a stage. It only needs truth. So the next time you enter your room, don't go in with sadness. Go in with expectation. Don't look at what's missing. Look at what's already there. Because where there is hunger for God, He fills. Where there is surrender, He dwells. And where there is silence, He speaks. One of the greatest dangers in solitude is not sadness, but false comfort. That kind of momentary relief that seems harmless, but diverts the soul from the eternal path. Because not everything that relieves heals. Not everything that entertains builds. And not everything that accompanies is good for you. When a woman enters deep seasons of solitude, her soul becomes vulnerable. And there, in that vulnerability, disguised offers appear, relationships without commitment, constant distractions, routines that numb the spirit. It's easy to justify it. It's easy to say, it's nothing. I just don't feel good for a while. But a while can cost you years. A small detour can delay great destinies. The enemy knows he cannot stop God's plan for your life, but he can try to distract you. He can entertain you until you forget what you were hoping for. He can surround you with voices, with screens, with half-hearted affections. Anything that takes away your spiritual hunger is a risk. Anything that makes you feel like it doesn't hurt anymore without actually healing is soft poison. There are comforts that keep you busy, but do not fill you. There are people who come to distract you, not to build you up. There are habits that seem innocent, but slowly extinguish the fire. What's false has a dangerous quality. It looks a lot like what's real. That's why the woman who is waiting must stay alert, not living in paranoia, but with discernment. God does not want you to live in anguish, but He also doesn't want you to settle for substitutes. He is a jealous God, and not because He is selfish, but because He knows that only He can give you what you truly need. Everything else is illusion. Everything else is a loan with interest that your soul will eventually pay. He wants to be your refuge, your joy, your companion. But if you fill your heart with other things, you leave no room for His presence. False comforts not only take you away from God, they also weaken you. They dull your discernment. They make you more permissive. And when the key moment arrives, when a divine opportunity appears, you might not recognize it because you're numb. That's why emotional purity is a priority in the waiting season. It's not about religiosity. It's about spiritual strategy. True comfort is the one that does not pull you away from God, but brings you closer. That doesn't silence your questions, but leads you to the answers. That doesn't numb you, but heals you. That comfort is Him, His voice, His word, His presence, His truth. So if you've been looking for relief in the wrong places, don't condemn yourself. Just return. Return to the pure. Return to the eternal. Return to the altar. Because although false comfort entertains, only the presence of God transforms. And you are not called to survive loneliness. You are called to conquer it. The night is not just a moment to sleep. It is a stage where one of the most intense battles of the soul is fought. When the body rests, the spirit activates. When everything is silent, the inner voices resonate louder. And many times, what seems like insomnia, anxiety, or mere fatigue is, in reality, a spiritual war. The woman who sleeps alone often feels that weight. She can't fully explain it, but she senses it. There are nights when sleep does not come, and instead a strange restlessness appears, as if something is moving and invisible. And it's not paranoia. It's not exaggeration. It's that, in the night, the heavens open and spiritual dimensions stir. Alonso Puig, in his studies on the neural field, spoke of a matrix of consciousness that connects all of reality. He said there are levels of being that are not accessible in constant wakefulness, but that reveal themselves when the mental noise lowers. And that is what the night is, a portal, a moment of decompression where the soul peeks into realities that by day are disguised. He understood that there is an invisible network that sustains everything, and that human thought, especially when free of distraction, can touch that field and activate it. In spiritual language, that is called discernment. It is the ability to see beyond what is apparent. And many women experience it without knowing. They wake up in the middle of the night with a burden, a name, a weight of prayer. They feel they must get up, that something is calling them. It's not coincidence. It is a heavenly calling. Because while others sleep deeply, God awakens His daughters to fight battles that are not seen, but that change destinies. The spiritual war at night is not always against visible demons. Sometimes it's against thoughts that want to steal your faith, against memories that want to reopen wounds, against fears that whisper lies. The battlefield is in the mind, in the heart, in the spirit. But victory is also found there when you choose not to give in, when you use the word as a sword, when you pray even if no one hears you, when you rebuke in a whisper but with authority, when you sing in the midst of the darkness. Those nights are not wasted time. They are training. They are war practice. They are moments in which your soul strengthens and your spirit gains muscle. Because while others sleep unaware, you are standing in the gap, and that gap changes things. It stops attacks. It heals territories. It protects generations. Do not fear the night. Do not run from those strange awakenings. Embrace them as part of your calling. You are a watchtower. You are a warrior. You are a sentinel. You are not alone in that battle. You are accompanied by the one who never sleeps. And if He wakes you up, it's because He knows you can endure, because He trusts in you, because He has anointed you for that hour. And every night you overcome, you become more sensitive to the eternal, stronger, clearer, more attuned to heaven. As Alonso Puig said, consciousness has the power to shape reality. And when a consecrated woman prays in the night, something changes in the day. Even if no one sees it, even if no one says it, the spiritual world moves. So rise when you feel the call. Pray without fear. Declare with faith. Win in secret. Because tomorrow, what you conquer in the night will be a public testimony that God formed you in the darkness to shine with His light. Waiting is not passivity. Waiting is not sitting with crossed arms for something to happen. Waiting, in heaven's language, is cultivating. It is preparing the ground, strengthening yourself inwardly, tuning your ear so that when the time comes, you are ready not just to receive, but to sustain. And when a woman waits with faithfulness, that wait becomes an altar a battle won, a living redemption. But the world does not see waiting like that. It calls it delay. It calls it failure. It calls it loneliness. However, the Spirit has another perspective. It calls waiting a sacred process, because while you wait, you are being restored. You are being clothed in dignity. You are being delicately formed by a God who does not improvise. He is not late. He is working in you and for you. Mario Alonso Puig, through his studies on expanded awareness, spoke about the structure of the unseen, that profound weave that forms perception and existence. Inside that framework, each idea, each choice, every emotion aligned with the divine reshaped substance. Waiting does the same. Even if from the outside it appears as stillness, within there is alignment. Each moment of inner loyalty positions you with the eternal. Every sacrifice is a frequency that transforms the spiritual and, eventually, the material. God restores during the wait, not only later, not after the so-called happy ending, but now, amid the unfolding. He lifts you when no eyes are watching. He places a crown in hiddenness. He wraps you in unseen majesty that praise cannot tarnish and rejection cannot diminish. And when all the world sees is a solitary woman, heaven beholds a woman of sacred fire, a woman of promise, a woman walking with the King, though no companion walks beside her. Honor is not granted once life is smooth. It is awakened in the storm, when you choose not to exchange faith for fleeting comfort. When you decide to stand firm, despite every voice pushing you to quit. When your waiting is not out of fear, but devotion, because deep down you trust that if God is pausing you, it's not to deny you, but to prepare something greater. Redemption is not just a return of what was lost. It's transformation. It's being made anew. It's the unveiling of a stronger, more radiant version of you. It's using every part of your past, even the painful parts, as proof of his unwavering love. And that takes place in the wait, in that secret space where applause is absent, where only your heart and is aware of the miracle being formed. Do not dismiss your journey. Do not look down on your consistency. While others chase after recognition, you are being crafted upon eternal blueprints. And the day will come when what you waited for will be waiting for you. And on that day, you will realize it was worth every silent night, every no whisper with courage, every tear offered to the sky, because your waiting was sacred. To sleep alone is not a symbol of defeat. It is a testimony of devotion. It is the imprint of a woman who chose not to compromise for what the world promises, but to hold out for heaven's design. It is a bold step toward integrity, a safeguard for the heart, a refusal to trade wholeness for company or worth for approval. Today you walk through the hidden hallways of the divine. You realize your room is a sanctuary, that your quiet is a sacred vow, that your sorrow was not wasted. You sense that this nightly battle was not in vain, that your waiting held intention, that your life is not small, it is sacred. God has been at work behind the curtain, refining you, cleansing you, teaching you there's nothing to prove, because he already claimed you, and his choosing doesn't fade with time, nor with flaws, nor with delays. He remains constant, even through your doubt. He stays near, even when he feels far. Mario Alonso taught that the unseen gives form to the seen, and you are living proof. You've endured a path few dare to walk, and it has reshaped your essence. It has made you more sensitive, more profound, more filled with divine essence. That version of you isn't random. It is the outcome of every yes spoken in solitude, of every whispered prayer through weeping, of every night where, though understanding was distant, you still held on. Do not settle for crumbs. Do not accept less than what you were designed to carry. God's love for you is not poetic metaphor. It is real. It is consuming. It is sufficient. He is your shelter, your shield, your eternal bridegroom. And in him, nothing is missing. In his timing, all else will come. But until that moment, you are not just waiting for love. You are already walking with love himself. Now is your hour. Raise your gaze. Walk with honor. pray with passion, live with meaning, and always remember, your story is not closing, it is unfolding. If these words stirred your soul, subscribe to this channel, share this message, and leave me a comment saying, I am ready to live with purpose.